told you that you are a million times more likely to get COVID-19 than to win the lottery, to contract COVID-19, right? That's what Newsweek says in an article on their site. But is that really what you ought to be worrying about at this point? Welcome to the Daily Summation. I am Kurt, here your host for the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Today is Sunday the 29th of November of 2020, and I wanted to welcome those aboard who are coming on from the podcast, from Rumble, from YouTube. And I wanted to point out that if you're trying to get me on the podcast, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, and on Spotify. The subject of today's little video and of the associated blog post is Facts Matter. I wanted to point some things out. I wanted to point out that the chances of your winning the lottery are certainly somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 in 302.5 million per page that I found called on a site called The Balance, I believe it was, thebalance.com. It also points out some things, and I'm going to pop up a little, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and I'm going to put a little visual aid so that you can see what it actually says. But it talks about a bunch of things that are typically substantially less probable that are still way more probable than winning the lottery. And there are things in there like dying from a car accident, right? Looking at the thing, there's any number of things, right, that's true for, that it's more likely that you're going to die from those things than that you're going to win the lottery, right? Dying from a car accident is a horribly high number. It's, I believe, if I remember correctly, higher than what COVID-19 is in the absolute worst case, right? But in any case, the point is this page makes it really very obvious that the chances that you're going to die from something are almost all more likely than you're going to die from COVID-19. Now, I grant you that, and by the way, that statistic from Newsweek, I think it wasn't talking about dying from it. It was talking about getting it, and that's part of what I'm trying to bring out here, part of what I'm kind of bringing to bear, right? And what I would say with that is that if you actually talk about dying from it, so you look at your chances of dying from COVID-19 based on the fact that it was somewhere around 250,000 people. I'm sorry, not million. I'm going to be quiet about that. I won't say what came to mind. I'm going to make a mistake, but it was 250,000 people. If we say around 250,000 people have died of COVID-19, even if you look at all of the people who have died over the population at large, it's 1 in 1,320 chance that you're going to die of COVID-19. Okay, now if you're one and under, that chance is 1 in more than 11 million. Okay, if you're 4 and under, it's still 1 in 4 million. And I want to point out that the numbers that I'm giving you are based on the whole population, not people of that particular age group, right? So the chances of a person who's 1 or under dying of COVID-19 out of the whole population of 330 million is 1 in 11 million. Okay. In the case of 4 and under, it's 1 in 7 million. In the case of 14 and under, it's still 1 in a bit less than 4 million. In the case of 24 and under, the chances you're going to die of COVID-19 out of the whole population of 330 million is 1 in 642,000. Okay, 44 and under, it drops. The chances become higher, chances become greater. So it's 1 in 48,500 roughly, right? If you're 54 and above, it's still 1 in 17,000. Or 54 and below, I'm sorry, not 54 and above, but 54 and below, it's still 1 And I want you to, oh, well, I'll tell you that in a second. We'll hold off and I'll give you the numbers. So if you're 54 and under, it's 1 in 17,000. If you're 64 and under, it's basically 1 in almost 7,000. But here's the thing, right? The numbers that I'm giving you are actually cumulative numbers. That is to say, when I say if you're 64 and under, I'm saying everybody from the previous number is in that. So when I say 1 in 64,000, I mean 1 in 7,000. I'm sorry, I mean people who are 64 and under, 54 and under, 44 and under, 34 and under, 24 and under, 14 and under, 4 and under, and 1 and under. I mean, all of those, it's still 1 in nearly 7,000, right? If you look at, for example, the number of people between 54,000 and between 54, age and 64 in age, it jumps up to 11,000, which seems like a high number by comparison, and I suppose technically it is. But the point that I'm making is that if you look at those numbers, what you come to understand is the actual number of people who are going to probably die from COVID-19 at any level, the likelihood is actually a great deal lower than anybody would have you believe. Okay? The worst number is that number that I gave you from 54 to 64. No, actually, it's the higher one. There's a higher one yet that probably drops the number to 1 in like 2,000 or something like that are going to die, maybe less, right? And so you need to understand that if we translate the 1 in 11,000 number to a or better yet, let's use the 1 in 7,000 number to a percentage. It's 1 in like 0.07, I think it is, thousand people, or 0.07% people is going to die. Okay, and all of this I say in order to point out a very simple reality about COVID-19. To say that what's going on with COVID-19, what we're doing as a response to COVID-19 at this point is overblown would be a serious understatement. All of the things that we're doing at this point, and I should point out, just as a matter of interest, so that you realize this, the death counts for the people who are older tend to be skewed by the fact that people were in nursing homes and were put back there when it was determined that they had COVID-19 instead of being taken out of that population. And of course, there's the standard disclaimer that there's a concern over comorbidities that are involving. So somebody who has COPD or other pulmonary diseases, somebody who has pneumonia, any number of things, somebody who's substantially older. These are the people who are going to end up, in all likelihood, getting COVID-19 and dying from it. Younger people aren't going to die from it in all likelihood at all. Again, what's the number look like? Well, if you're 1 and under, the answer is it's 1 in more than 11 million is going to die from this thing. If you're 4 and under, again, it's 1 in more than 7 million, and that's 4 and under over the whole population of the country of the United States, right? So what I'm trying to get at here is facts matter. And people like Newsweek throwing articles out there that are, in my opinion, unconscionable and are, in my opinion, scaremongering in their nature. Those people need to understand that saying things like that is really problematic, and quite frankly, it's fear-mongering. It's telling people, you have to really worry about this. And I have to be honest with you, we've had data for some time that's indicative. By the way, the numbers are from the CDC. That's where they came from, in case you're wondering. My numbers that I use are from the CDC and standardly recognized population number of 330 million. So maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little less on the population. Okay, so I need to wrap this video up, but I think you see where I'm going here. I think it is understandable that what I'm saying is that we're worrying about this way too much, that we need to be backing way off on what we're doing with it. And that's just all there is to that. and that anybody who has a problem with that really needs to look at the facts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. As I've said, today is the 29th of November of 2020, and it's Sunday. Tomorrow will be the 30th of November of 2020, and it will be Monday. Again, thank you for all of you who are joining me on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube for coming aboard. And remember that if you're trying to get me on the podcast, you can typically search for Kurt's Religion and Politics or the Daily Summation on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Hope you're having a great day, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video is recorded on Sunday, the 29th of November, 2020. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for checking out this video. Remember that you can like it on YouTube and you can give it a rumble on Rumble if you want to do that. I have channels on both YouTube and Rumble. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels. You can subscribe to either one of those if you want to do so. Remember, if you subscribe on YouTube, you probably want to click the notification bell in order to be notified of new content. If you want to see more from me, you can check me out on my blog. That's blogs.kpschubert.com, blogs.kpschubert.com. You can also see my Facebook page. That is Kurt's Religion and Politics on Facebook. You can check out my Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com accounts. My handle on all three of those is at kpschubert. That's at kpschubert. You can check out my podcast. The podcast is at podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcast.kpschubert.com. And finally, you can check me out on Patreon. And if you want to support me, that's probably one of the better places that you can do that. I am Kurt's Religion and Politics there. Thanks again for checking out this video, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.